Cats, hello you absolute lovelies. Let's talk all about Peacemaker Season 2, Episode 2, a very man versus self metaphor and actualization coming in by way of the multiverse. I actually dug this episode even more than the first. We've got some character growth. We've also got our characters from the first season coming back together and showing the strength of that, as well as lots and lots of Eagley. Gonna dive all into this episode. Before we do, please hit that subscription bell if you're not subscribed already. This page is all about movies, TV, and comics. I review movies and TV and give news, but from a comic book lens. I read about 50 to 70 comics a week, and I do a live show every single week breaking down my favorite 9 comics I think you'll like, as well as all of the biggest news in the world of comics and comic adaptations. So if you like Peacemaker, if you like comic books, you like movies and TV in general, please hit that subscription bell. Going to be covering every episode of this show on this channel. Also, press like, just press it. It helps the algorithm. Also, leave a comment. I want to talk about Season 2, Episode 2. All right, let's talk all about Peacemaker. This show is bold, it takes a lot of swings, and this episode was no exception. I really love what's happening here with the Frank Grillo slow build. Frank Grillo, obviously, playing Rick Flag Sr., father of the character in the Suicide Squad that we saw get killed by Peacemaker. I love this as our villain, but I also love that it is Episode 2, and we're just starting to see the seeds of how this is going to come to a head. When he was cast, I knew this would be, hopefully, an inevitability, because we had the duality of Peacemaker becoming a kind of cult favorite character. Peacemaker in the comics, not that great. Peacemaker has been a bit of a running joke, but much like arm fall off guy, you can make him interesting. There's a lot of ways to humanize a character. James Gunn is a specialist at that, bringing D and C list characters up to A list. Also bringing underdogs and outsiders into a place where you identify with them and with them. But what's tricky is we have the Suicide Squad. He's the villain. Like, he does the unthinkable. He does a horrible thing. Now all of those consequences are coming to a head. The show is about consequences. We're gonna love Frank Grillo. It's Frank Grillo. He's awesome. I'm excited to see that kind of conflict in ourselves. Joel Kinnaman played Rick Flag incredibly in the Suicide Squad. It was so maddening to see Peacemaker win, but then Peacemaker Season 1 humanized him so well and made him so interesting and likable. Now we've got the Suicide Squad, I'm angry at this decision, meets, oh, I've grown to like this character, coming together with an added Frank Grillo, an additive of Rick Flag Sr., who we loved in at least I did, in Creature Commandos. I was so impressed with that performance. And we loved in Superman, but we're growing into, he's got more power, he's leading Argus. He wasn't allowed access to the files to finally prove once and for all who killed his kid. We saw in the first episode, heard in the first episode, that Economos was trapped because of the events of that. To this episode, we actually saw the 8 months prior. We've seen time pass. Gotta sneeze. And now we've got, I feel so much better, that was building the whole time. Now we've got the basic, time has passed, what's his plan? What's the long game? How has Argus been infiltrating this world? How is this gonna come together? We also, in this episode, got Tim Meadows, who is a delight. Mean Girls' own Tim Meadows, amongst other great things. But man, I love him in Mean Girls. He's so funny. He is so good at preposterous dialogue. And I was a little worried, I'm not gonna lie. That first bird blindness joke, I was like, all right. But it's one of those jokes that, like, it is such a silly, dumb setup that at first it doesn't work, but by the time they get to, like, the payoff and the action, it absolutely landed for me. I was, like, actually belly laughing out loud at bird blindness jokes. That is a powerful, ridiculous writing, but somehow works, and ridiculous acting, but somehow works combo. All their names, all of those preposterous lines, Tim Meadows nailing it. And, I mean, I said at the top, but Frank Grillo, I cannot wait to see him as our villain when he's just, like, getting vengeance for his son. If there's a version of this story where he's the lead, where, after the Suicide Squad, his father, Rick Flag Sr., who we love from Creature Commandos, you don't have a Peacemaker show, now you've got Rick Flag Sr. seeking out his son's killer, and how do you not side with that? That's going to be so fascinating. That's going to be so interesting. Also, speaking of the Argus setup and all these things, I love Economos feeling removed from his friend group. I love the chemistry between all of them. Absolutely incredible. Like, truly feel like a friend group, a found family, which Gunn is so good at. But I also really love that Economos feels a little removed, and I really love the scene between him and Tim Meadows, and then I loved the Tim Meadows bird scene, not just for the comedy, but the action. This episode had action choreography around a CGI bird. The last episode, we had that great Harcourt scene. Now we've got a bird fight that is incredible, and we love Eagley. There was a moment when I saw feathers on the floor, that bait and switch. I was really worried we got James gunned and a beloved animal was hurt. A beloved character might have been killed. I was terrified. He's good at manipulating emotions. He's good at making you feel, and this was one of those moments where I absolutely felt and I was concerned. When they woke up, I was like, where's Eagley? Where's my boy? Really good stuff. Really great episode. I do think I like this one a little bit more than the first episode. We got a lot left. We got 8 episodes, but I feel like them coming together, the propulsion. I remember the first season feeling very propulsive and cumulative as well. So hopefully that keeps going into episode 3. Also love what they're doing with the man versus self element of Peacemaker, the sins of his past coming to a head, and then him also going into this escapism of this idealized world, the world where everything's better, where he has Harcourt and all those things. Seeing how that translates at the end of this episode, like whether or not that is going to make him realize how good he has it, whether or not he's going to want this idealized world, whether or not he can make Harcourt care about him in our world. All those things, very interesting use of multiverse, and already a bit more interesting than sometimes multiversal stories can be. Sometimes they can fall flat and feel like there are no stakes because of infinite possibility. Instead, it feels like there are stakes because of the infinite possibilities. Very excited to see things come together. Also, a lot of imps teased in episode 1 makes me think maybe we get 5th dimensional mixer, like Mr. Mixie-Plitlick and other type characters in this show. Because why not? We've already got so much craziness. It could happen in this show. So really loving the DCU world building in episode 1. Really love the character evolution and growth in episode 2. Really loving the Frank Grillo arc starting to form. Really like the introspection and pacing of John Cena's character going through everything. And I really think it's fascinating how much this show has made us love Peacemaker of all characters. A character that is so preposterous in comic books and on paper and even on screen in every way, but so human somehow. Very impressive work. I think next episode, I'm assuming we're going to double, my theories, having not seen it, is we're going to be doubling down a little bit on Vigilante, because I feel like that's the natural progression of like where the character focus is. I think the friendship stuff being teased, and I think he, had runaway success in the first season. Also, I love that Harcourt is effectively the co-lead this season. Fascinating stuff with what's going on with her so far, and I hope next episode we get even more Frank Grillo, but time will tell. Please leave a comment down below. Let me know what you thought of season 2. Do you think I'm reaching with the man versus self? Do you think I'm expecting with the multiverse? Like, what do you guys think is going to happen? I would love to know your thoughts about the multiversal stuff and the character stuff happening in this episode. Let me know down below. Like, subscribe, press the YouTube buttons. I will see you next week for episode 3 of Peacemaker season 2, as well as lots of movie reviews and TV reviews and all that other stuff right here. See you soon. Thanks, guys. Bye. If anything happens to Eagley this season, I'm going to be very upset. And I have now learned in episode 2 how much I'm connected to that bird and how worried I am. Eagley, I'm worried.